part of this, and I have really enjoyed it.
Yes.
You too, oh my God.
Yes.
You have really taken it over the top, and
Yes.
I truly thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oliver, for the wealth of information that you shared with
Yes.
us regarding Mr. King. And as I was sitting there listening to it, it really touched on a conversation that me and my sister was having, and I took it all in, and I'm about to take it home. So thank you. So what I have, the information that I have here is Black History Milestones of St. Petersburg, Florida. You will know this information. I'm not originally from St. Petersburg, so all this happened prior to my arrival and also prior to my birth. But the Courageous 12, you're familiar with them. So in 1965, I actually captured all this information, and I'm going to share it with you because it was new to me, but I felt that all of it was worth sharing. In 1965, the city of St. Petersburg was segregated. White residents primarily lived north of Central Avenue, and black residents lived south of the city's main thoroughfare. The situation at the St. Petersburg Police Department mirrored society, with black police officers only being allowed to patrol predominantly black neighborhoods with no authority to arrest white citizens. 1 year prior, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it was the most far-reaching piece of civil rights legislation to date. It prohibited discrimination in public places, allowed for the desegregation of schools and other public facilities, and made employment discrimination illegal. On May 11, 1965, after appealing to the chief of the St. Petersburg Police Department, 12 of the city's 15 black police officers filed a discrimination lawsuit to gain the full rights and authority of their white counterparts. They chose to move forward with the decision, even though they knew it would cost them their livelihoods. Their courage to prevail in the face of adversity is why they became known as the Courageous 12. These brave men are Adam Baker, Freddie Lee Crawford, Raymond L. Deloach, Charles Holland, Leon Jackson Jr., Robert V. Keyes, Primus Killen, James King, Johnny B. Lewis, Horace Nero, Jerry Stiles, and Nathaniel Wooten. And when I was doing my research on this, some of these names, Charles Holland, is that Crystal Holland's father?
Probably so.
Was he married to a teacher, an educator?
Oh, because I heard about that. Because you got Holland's Elementary or something like that.
Yeah, and then Freddie Lee
And
Crawford,
Mr. Crawford is what you're calling those.
Peggy Crawford, and them.
And definitely know the Rollins one, that's the school.
And
Jamal
okay.
Crawford.
Rollins, that's the
So
school.
the lawsuit went to federal court on March 31st and April 1st, 1966. Judge Joseph Lee dismissed the case. The Courageous 12, with the help of the NAACP, filed an appeal on August 1st, 1968. The Court of Appeals ruled in their favor, reversing Judge Lee's decision. The very next year, Officer Leon Jackson became the first black officer assigned to an all-white neighborhood. The ruling paved the way for 4 black officers in Tampa to file a similar lawsuit and win. Across the country, the Courageous 12's legal victory opened the door for minorities to have equal rights to their white counterparts and the opportunity to be promoted through the ranks in law enforcement agencies. To date, 2 African American men have served in the department's highest rank of Chief of Police, and now the door is open for anyone who fits the job. And that leads me into the ending of this. In 2019, Anthony Holloway, Chief of Police, held a special plaque dedication ceremony at the new police headquarters. He wanted to make sure that every person who visited the police department knew about the important sacrifices of the Courageous 12. With Mayor Rick Kreisman and retired Officer Leon Jackson, who was the sole survivor at the Courageous 12 at that time, at his side, a bronze plaque featuring the images of the 12 men was unveiled at the headquarters. To ensure our up-and-coming officers don't forget, Chief Holloway also made sure that facts from the Courageous 12's historic efforts are included in the information required for passing promotion exams. And I love that. So as a city, the police department, they're proud of the Courageous 12 and grateful for their efforts to extend equal opportunity for anyone who serves and protects the residents of St. Petersburg. So that leads me into who our first African-American police chief, who was Goliath Davis. He was born and raised in a community known as the Methodist town, which is something I didn't know, which is now referred to as Jamestown. Okay, so Freddie Lee Crawford was the friend and mentor who led him into joining the police force, who was a part of the Courageous 12. So he joined in September of 1973. I'm kind of going through it quickly. So Davis was promoted to deputy chief in 1984, assistant chief in 1989, and then on August the 5th of 1997, he was elected as the first black police chief. So following his tenure as chief, he did have another first, which was to be appointed as the first African-American deputy mayor. And at that time, his focus was on the revitalization of the Midtown. But in 2011, he was fired by Mayor Bill Foster for not attending a slain police officer's funeral. So Davis had a policy in his life that he would pay respect at wakes, but no longer attended funerals, and that was since 1980. So he was born on March 2nd, and he was fired on March 2nd. So this is the most current first for us. We have the first African-American fire chief. On December 6th of 2024, Keith Watts was sworn in as the 11th chief of St. Petersburg Fire Department. Chief Watts' career has been marked by an attentiveness to enhancing community safety and leading effective emergency response efforts. He began his public safety journey with Orange County Fire and Rescue in 1991. So he has like 28 years of experience. So one of his things that he did since in our area last year, summer of 24, Chief Watts played a key role in launching CAP Ignite. So if you guys know any young ladies, this is the first ever all-female firefighting camp in St. Petersburg aimed at engaging, encouraging, and empowering teenage girls by introducing them to the fire service. So this will occur again this year because I met him last month. We met him. He came to our mentor group. So they will have this. If you know any teenage girls who are interested in being firefighters, keep an eye out for that Camp Ignite.
Ignite, Camp Ignite.
Mr. Oliver, were you a part of that, the gas plant district movie? That little video movie that they were filming this past weekend?
Or that
they did?
But I grew up, my first few years were there.
Did you speak on that video? No? No? Okay.
So these
That
two
was a
that we
really
have
nice
in the
video.
room, though, these two who we have in space did a thing with Gwendolyn Reese pertaining to.
Okay, because I saw her on there.
Yeah, and pertaining to the gas.
That was an awesome video. That was awesome film.
I mean, we could read. Oh, did you see some of it?
Yeah, someone had sent me
Oh, nice.
the video because the church I grew up in used to sit where the dome is right now, First Baptist. So I'm very familiar with all of that area that they uprooted.
I was shaky about that project, but I'm glad it came out pretty
Yes.
good. I did say a lot of things that I did a lot of research on it, so I consider it a document poem. You know, something to document. Toni Morrison did. You know, every time I read her stuff, you know, it just reminds me we have to document.
Yes.
You know, because that'd be left way past me.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's so important. That's very important.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, everyone.